Salvete discipuli. In this lesson, we are now back in Rome, where Salvius is about to be charged with some crimes. Will he be able to beat the rap? Well, we will begin today reading and finding out what happens. Septimo anno Domitiani principatus Salvius liberalis, qui priore anno fuerat consul, ab Achillio Glabrione falsi accusatus est. Okay, so as I lay out the translation, every time I translate a word or a phrase, you're going to see the corresponding word in the Latin become underlined, okay? So, in the 7th year, okay, this is what we call an ablative of time. When you have a unit of time, anno being the word for year, a unit of time, along with a number, and in this case, an ordinal number, 7th, okay? 1, 2, 3, those are cardinal numbers. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, those are ordinal numbers. If you want to remember the difference, remember things like 7th refers to the order of something. Anyway, when you have ablatives like that, you translate as like in that amount of time or on that day. We have another example of that coming up. So anyway, in the 7th year, Domitiani principatus. These are genitives, okay? So in the principate, this is a genitive singular of a 4th declension noun, principatus. This refers to the time when he has been emperor. So his principate is like the time he's emperor. So in the principate of Domitian, Salvius liberalis, qui, who, fuerat consul. This is a pluperfect verb, okay, pluperfect, had been consul. When had he been consul? Here we go. Here's another ablative of time coming up. Priore anno, in the previous year. Okay, so again, ablative with a unit of time. We are going to translate it in this time or on that time. Accusatus est. He was accused. Okay, this is a perfect tense passive. What was he accused of? He was accused of forgery. Falsum, it means forgery. Falsi is the genitive singular. He was accused of forgery. Who was he accused of forgery by? By Achilles Glabrio. Okay, so remember, Salvius did in fact forge a will, a last will and testament of Cogidubnus, which basically gave everything to Salvius. Okay, so this was a fraud that he was trying to do to get himself even richer. Okay, and this has come to light, and so we are back in Rome, and now Salvius is in fact being formally charged with this crime. Quare improvisa perturbatus amicos statim consuluit, utrum accusationem sperneret, an defensionem susciperet. Okay, so he is disturbed. This is talking about Salvius. So Salvius, disturbed. Now, quare, literally by which thing, okay, by which thing. Whenever you're talking about something that was in the previous sentence, you're going to use a form of the relative, okay? So forms of qui, quae, quod. Now, I'm going to be tweaking this translation soon. So, quare improvisa, by which unforeseen manner. Improvisa, okay? Unforeseen matter, okay? But now, here's the thing. By which, disturbed by which unforeseen matter really isn't good. Change the which to just this. Disturbed by this unforeseen matter. What did Salvius do? Consuluit. Moreover, statim consuluit. He immediately consulted. Who did he consult? Here's your direct object, accusative plural. He consulted friends. Now, from your attempted translation, you saw that when you have utrum, followed by an, This is going to be whether something or something. And what comes like after the utrum and after the an, this is going to be whether this or that. So he consulted friends as to whether he should do blank, accusationem sperneret, or the other thing, defensionem susciperet. And this means whether he might ignore. Now, this is an imperfect subjunctive, okay? We've talked about the imperfect subjunctive, how it is formed from the infinitive. So he consulted friends as to whether he might ignore. Now, I'll suggest maybe in context whether he should ignore might also be an option. Whether he might ignore the accusation. Okay, the accusation is that he forged something, namely the will of Cobi Dugnus. So whether he might ignore the accusation, or here's the other thing he might do: susciperet, take up defensionem, a defense. Salvio roganti quid esset agendum, alii alia suadebant. Okay, so this sentence is going to be grammatically very interesting. Okay, it's going to include an example of what we call a distributive construction. Okay, so let's start off. We have a datives, salvio, dative singular, roganti, dative singular of the present active participle. So to Salvius asking, quid esset agendum, what must be done? Okay, so this is just like Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed. Quid esset agendum, what must be done? To Salvius, he's asking, hey, what must be done? So to Salvius asking what must be done, here's what happened. Alii. Now, in isolation, the word alii would mean others, okay? Suadebant, were persuading. And the object, alia, other things, okay? So now, here's what we're going to do with this. Literally, others were persuading other things. But what this really means, in English, we of course wouldn't say others were persuading other things. We would say some were persuading some things, others were persuading other things. And believe it or not, Latin accomplishes that simply with the phrase alii alia suadebant. So basically, some were persuading some things, others were persuading other things to Salvius. Now I'm going to turn this into, like, again, better English. Literally, to Salvius asking what must be done. Better English is to Salvius who was asking what must be done. So remember, the two options were ignore the accusation, or the other option was take up a defense. So Salvius asked friends, and the answer was some were persuading Salvius, who was asking what must be done, to take up a defense. Others were persuading Salvius, who was asking what must be done, to ignore the accusation. Okay? Alii affirmaverunt nullum periculum instare, quod Salvius vir magnae auctoritatis esset. Okay? So now again, when you've got a form of alii, based on what we just saw, okay, based on what we just saw, be ready for, if there is another sentence with alii after this, we might tweak this as, again, saying some affirmed this, others affirmed that, okay? So let's just go with what we've got for now. Others affirmed, affirmaverunt. Now this is going to be an indirect statement construction. They affirmed that. Here's what they affirmed that. Nullum periculum. And the verb of an indirect statement is an infinitive. So instare, to threaten. We're going to translate this whole clause. Others were affirming that no danger was threatening. Okay? Why did they affirm that no danger was threatening? Here's why. Quod, because Salvius esset. Now, this is an imperfect subjunctive. You always use subjunctive after a word like quod or cur. So, like, We call this actually the indirect question construction, okay? So there'll be a question on this. The reason esset is subjunctive is because it is an indirect question construction. Because Salvius was, what was he? A weir. What kind of a weir? Get ready for some genitive singulars here. He was a man of great authority. Okay, so some were basically saying, hey, Salvius, you're a man of great authority. You don't have any reason to be worrying about danger. There's no danger threatening you. You're a man of great authority. So others were affirming that. Now, since the next sentence also includes alii, we might very well go back here and change this to some. Okay, so some affirmed that no danger was threatening because Salvius was a man of great authority. Others were thinking something different. Okay, so alii existimabant Domitiani iram magis timendam esse quam minas accusantium. Okay, so others were thinking, and again, we've got an indirect statement construction here. They were thinking that iram, this is the accusative in an indirect statement. It's the subject of what's going to be the verb. Here's going to be the verb. The actual verb is esse, the infinitive to be, and we're going to have a gerundive form with it. So others were thinking that the anger of Domitian timendam esse. Okay, so just like Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed, iram timendam esse, anger must be feared. Okay, and again, anger of Domitian, Domitiani, genitive singular here. So, and again, this is an infinitive because of the indirect statement. Okay, so others were thinking that the anger of Domitian must be feared magis, more. Magis quam, more than something. Okay, what must be feared more than? Minas, the threats, accusantium. Literally the threats of the accusing ones. Okay, so this nt here makes it a present active participle. Genitive plural. Okay, genitive plural. Of the ones accusing. But we're going to turn that into the accusers. The threats of the accusers.